Good evening. This is the June 30th, 2020 meeting of the Stevens Estate Long-Term Advisory Committee. It's 7 p.m. and I have a statement to read in order to run this virtual meeting. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Stevens Estate Long-Term Advisory Committee will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with a right and/or requirement to attend.
I'm gonna start for Beth.
Is everybody hearing? Is everybody seeing? Is everybody seeing Jim frozen right now, or am I the only one?
No, he's frozen.
He's frozen.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So you gotta go to bed.
So given that he's frozen, hopefully he
I'm just gonna put the-
I'll come up in a minute when it's time to take you.
hopefully he can rejoin us in a minute. Joe, since you're vice chair,
Upstairs.
do you have the agenda open? Let me know if you have the agenda open or if you need me to send it to you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you. Do you
All
want
right,
to just
I'll
pick
just
up where Jim left off? And I think if you could just pick up at specific information and the general guidelines. Do you see that? It's like
I apologize. I have two computers on, and I was just multitasking. Let me get your email up so I'll be able to open that agenda. Does Jim know that he's frozen?
That's a good question. What I'm going to do is I'm going to text him right now. And let him know.
Andrew, what do you need me to do?
So at the top of the agenda, there's a long, somewhat long paragraph in bold. You can just start where Jim left off. Specific information and the general guidelines. We just need to read this just needs to be read. Do you see that at the top?
I'll just start again. Agenda. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Laws C-30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Stevens Estate Long-Term Advisory Committee will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with a right and/or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the town's website at www.northandoverma.gov. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to watch the meeting may do so on their televisions by turning to Comcast Channel 8 or Verizon Channel 26 or online at www.northandovercam.org. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so despite best efforts, we will post on the Town of North Andover website an audio or video recording transcript or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. If the public would like to participate in the public hearings, please email your questions or comments prior to or during the meeting to A. Shapiro, which is ASHAPIRO at northandoverma.gov. The question comments will be read during the proceedings and responded to accordingly.
Great. And since Jim has not rejoined us yet, can you call the meeting to order? And we're just going to take a quick roll call since folks at home can't see who's here, and just ask everybody to say who's here. So
Sure.
Joe Pellich, you're here, right?
I am. It's the official call to order. Please identify yourself, starting with Kevin, I guess at the top of the screen.
Okay.
Hi, Kevin Driscoll.
Okay. I'll just note on behalf of Jim LaFond, he is here, just experiencing technical difficulties, and hopefully we'll be back very soon. CJ, you're here, right? You want to say hello? CJ might be frozen. CJ Ganji, Charles Ganji is here. Jack,
Hey,
you're
Andrew?
on the phone? Yes?
Yeah, this is Jim. I don't know what's happening. Did anybody hear the prologue or?
Yeah, so we picked up where you left off. Joe just read the whole thing, and now we're just calling roll call. So we've established that Joe is here, Kevin's here, CJ is here, and you're here, obviously.
Yeah,
Jen,
I
do
don't.
you want to just
Jack Maben, present.
okay, and then Jen Les.
Present.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Jim, you want to take over from here? We just called the roll and read the notice and called the meeting to order.
Yeah. Did you lose my video as well? Or can you
Yes.
see me?
We cannot see you.
CJ
Okay.
just left the meeting to restart.
Now I'm letting him back in. Okay.
Okay. I might try to do that as well. I'm on the phone, so I don't think I'll lose that. Let's see here. Okay, I don't know, my back or?
I don't see you via video. Can you see folks? Because if you can see folks and we hear, oh, we see you now. Okay.
Okay.
Jim, you want to hang that up?
You're going to have to mute one of your
Yep.
lines.
Yep.
Now you have to unmute yourself on your computer. We're off to a good start, guys.
It's like the Geico commercial.
I thought you guys would be pros at this. Like 3 months of COVID-19, everybody could just jam through this. Can you, Jim? You're gonna have to unmute yourself on your computer. So if you can hover down below this toward the lower end of your screen, you see the 3 dots, the microphone being one of them. You need to unmute that. Still can't hear you. Okay, Jim, or excuse me, Joe. Why don't we have you call for the selection of the volunteer recording secretary? I'll make that really easy for you.
Sure,
If
thank
you guys, I will do that. So if you guys want to make a motion to have me do that, that's fine.
So motion for Andrew to take over as recording secretary.
Second,
Okay,
Kevin.
and then you guys all need to vote by voice vote. So go ahead, Joe. You start with yourself.
Aye.
aye.
That's Kevin
Kevin.
Driscoll saying aye. Yep.
Jim?
Jack,
I heard
Jack,
Jack Maben
Jack
says
says
what?
aye.
Okay.
Jack
Jim-
Maben says aye.
Jim LaFawn says aye.
And Jen, I think I heard you. And CJ
Yes.
is not here at the moment, but he's still with
And
us. Okay, so
can you
I'll
hear
do
me now?
that. We can hear you. Yes.
Jim LaFawn says aye.
Okay, great. So Jim, if you want to take over again, we're now at the minutes, accepting minutes from 2/27.
All right, so everybody should have, as part of their agenda package, received the minutes attached. And if everybody's had a chance to review them, I would accept a motion to accept the minutes of the February 27th, 2020 meeting. Is there a motion?
Motion to accept the minutes.
Motion by Joe Pellich. Is there a second?
Kevin Driscoll, second.
Okay. Any discussion? All right, all those in, well, actually, again, we'll do it by roll call. All those who are in favor will respond by saying yes. Kevin Driscoll,
Kevin Driscoll, yes.
CJ Ganji,
Yes.
Jim LaFawn votes yes. Jen Les,
Yes.
Jack Maben,
Yes.
Joe Pellich,
Yes.
and the vote is unanimous. Next item on the agenda is discussion regarding next steps and direction for the committee. The first item being public outreach efforts, the flash vote survey. So at this point in time, probably Andrew, you can bring us up to speed better than anybody. So why don't you take it from here?
Yeah, so the basic outline of the situation is we had agreed on a flash vote survey set of questions. And so we were kind of poised and ready to go to some extent. But of course, all this stuff hit. And it also really kind of blunted our outreach efforts in terms of getting people signed up for flash vote. So right now there are 185 people in town that are signed up for flash vote. And all the communication for anything town related over the past couple of months has been, COVID-19 related and really, town meeting related and other items. So I didn't really feel like we were going to get much traction getting people signed up. Excuse me, hold on one second. Sorry, I had to shoo two kids out of my room here, sorry. As I said before, the questions are drafted. What I'd like to do is I'd like to restart the effort to get people signed up for flash vote. And in concert with doing that, or in simultaneous to doing that, I think we should also consider, and this is something that's been discussed in the past, once we get enough people signed up for flash vote, I certainly think it needs to be, a fair bit above 185 people. Hopefully we can, after we get enough people signed up, and we'll be able to get this out by the end of the month. And I think we should also aim to get a listening session on the books with members of the public. And the suggested format for that would be, I don't know if anybody saw the town hall style discussion that the town manager and I had for the tax increment financing agreement that we broadcasted over North Andover CAM. So maybe it can be either two committee members or myself and one of the committee members, Jim or somebody else, who go on and take phone calls from members of the public who want to ask questions or provide comments about their thoughts on the Stevens estate. And we can, at that time, over that broadcast, go over the results of the flash vote survey or other feedback that we got earlier in the year when we were doing that general feedback that we had put out, which I still have all the responses to. So that's just food for thought. I just wanted to throw that out there. I don't know if others have thoughts on the general public outreach efforts or how we should accomplish or approach it.
I do have a question. I mean, what would it be a good target for us for people enrolled for the flash vote surveys? I mean, do we have any experience from what other towns have gone through and using those types of surveys? How many?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, in other towns, I think they get a lot of responses. I think they have a lot of people signed up, but I think flash vote is more of a known quantity in those places. And whereas this is sort of like the fledgling use or the guinea pig, trial for this. So it's hard to say. I'd say we need at least 500 people. Wouldn't you like to be able to go to the Board of Selectmen and say, hey, we got 500 responses, plus all these other responses that we got earlier, plus we did a listening session? I think that's a good round number, but I'm not saying that's a scientifically significant number. It just sounds good. It's a nice round number.
Understood. I think I've suggested it before, but I know, it might be some work, but maybe one of us could draft an email so that, everybody else could just kind of copy and paste it just to our friends, North Andover friends, obviously. And, when you look at the compounding effect, if 7 of us send that email to 10 of our closest North Andover friends and ask them to send it to 10 of their closest North Andover friends, again, everybody can just copy and paste it with the link in there to sign up for flash vote surveys. And if you just do the math, it doesn't take long to get to that target. Any thoughts on that?
Yep.
We have 9,000 you have 9,000 people on the North Andover Moms Facebook page. So if you can post a link there, you're going to hit a decent number of people.
Does anybody know if it's ever been posted to North Andover Moms in the past? In one of our past efforts to, no?
Yeah, I thought Kathleen had said that I think she's involved with, or is a regular user of that Facebook site. I thought she had mentioned that, but again, I could touch base with her and ask her that question. Kevin, are you a regular on that site?
Kind of.
Yeah.
I can post it.
All right. I mean, I don't see any downside.
Yeah, I can post it there. I can post it on the dad's page. I'm the moderator on the dad's page. So
All right.
Okay.
That's,
Well, I think the bottom line is I think the goal should be to get the survey out by the end of the month. And I was gonna, when we open this conversation up a little more, I was gonna just comment on sort of a broad outline I have for the rest of the work timeline. And it figures in the time to do the public outreach. It figures in the time to do some of the other tasks that we have ahead of ourselves to, compile a recommendation and a document for the for the select board. So I think we should be able to wrap up all community outreach activities by the end of August. So that means getting people compiled into the flash vote system, going out with the flash vote survey, receiving those responses, setting up a listening session, however you want the format to be, and then holding that listening session.
okay. In sometime in September,
I'm thinking sometime in August.
the
So
listening session too?
yeah. So the end of this month being July. So get the survey out by the end of this month. Hold a listening session in August, having those results from the survey by then. And then by the end of August, you're done with all community outreach.
Okay. Does Flash Vote Survey, the company itself, dictate a time when they release, or in other words, will they give us a set time when they'll release it? That
I mean,
way,
we tell them, we kind of tell them, we
Yeah.
can work with them on when it can be released. We can
So-
dictate to them when that happens.
my point being, whether we do email tree or email pyramid scheme, or Kevin posted on both the moms and dads pages, maybe if we gave people a definitive date saying, look, the survey is coming out on 7/31. So you got to sign up by 7/30.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll give people at least a target. They'll know when it's coming, and, hopefully they'll, keep it on their agenda.
I think that's a good, I think that's a good point. So what I can do is sometime over the next couple of days, I can get back to you guys, or get back to you, Jim, at least with a date that, that Flash Vote and I agree that we can get the survey out, and we can provide that as a public date when the survey will be released.
7/31, I think, happens to be a Friday. So isn't it
Okay.
usually a 24 or 48-hour window? So it would leave, the weekend, maybe we'd get better response.
Okay. Makes sense to me.
I have a question. It's Kevin. Is there a way to get the message out to the residents prior to actually sending the flash survey to have them sign up for this? Or does the survey go out and they sign up for the flash?
So every effort up until now, we have issued via, town news, the town's Facebook page and Twitter, the link. And this was, a couple months ago. This was back in March. And that's how we got our 185 signups. So yeah, I think the first effort is getting people signed up for the Flash Vote platform. And I think the message, in addition to wanting people to provide feedback about the Stevens Estate, we want to use this as a platform going forward for town-wide issues. So ahead of town meeting, for instance, if there's a straw poll someone wants to conduct, or if there's another issue in town that people want the public's feedback on, a public safety issue, whatever it might be, the town wants to be able to use this platform. We have a contract with Flash Vote now to run these surveys. So the Stevens Estate is the first topic we're going to cover. So we do want to go out. Yeah.
Is there a link then with a message from town that we can post to the platforms on Facebook now to get people to sign up for it? And then when we have the survey ready to go at the end of the month, post the survey itself?
Yes. So, I mean, in a manner of speaking, yes, there is something that we used that was the town sort of verbiage to encourage people to sign up.
Andrew, can I jump in here a second?
Yep.
correct me if I'm wrong, but Kevin, when you sign up for the flash vote survey, that every individual who signs up for flash vote surveys will receive that flash vote survey via email, a prompt. Is that not correct? And that, because I signed up for it and within 3 days I got 4 or 5 requests for surveys to take surveys because I had not checked off the box for only North Andover. Now they're, so in other words, they prompt you when they want you, because Flash Survey is a national company, Flash Vote Survey. So again, I get the impression that when a survey comes out, it's going to be blasted out to everybody who's signed up for the survey. And if you check the box restricted to North Andover, then it's only going to go out to those who have, North Andover people.
And so what I did was I just sent you guys a link to the actually your committee's webpage on the town's larger website. And on the front of the page, you'll see there's some verbiage about signing up for Flash Vote. And I spent some time trying to create some marketing around just noting that the first topic was going to be the Stevens Estate. So I was going to have a message go out within the next week, just after holding this meeting, so you guys were informed. That would again ask people to sign up for Flash Vote, but also sort of cue people or maybe ping their interest by saying, and the first topic that you'll be asked about will be the Stevens Estate, so people know that survey will be the first one that they'll see shortly thereafter. But I think adding in the date that it'll be released is a good idea that Jim just mentioned, so we can add that into the mix as well.
But we can just send out that link, that flash vote link, right? To get people started in signing up.
Yep, and I mean, so again, I just sent you the link to the
yeah, I'm on it right now.
To the page, and on there's the link for Flash Vote, and I'll just as a just a belt and suspenders, I'll send you guys the link to Flash Vote as well. That's the link you want to share. The one I just shared is the one you want to share with your networks. So if you want to email people, if you want to put it on Facebook, whatever you want to do.
Right. So that we can just do that right now and put that out there to encourage people to sign up. And then when the survey hits, they're ready to go.
Exactly. They'll automatically get the survey if they're signed up for Flash Vote.
Okay. Good.
All right.
And did you guys have any thoughts on the listening session? Do you think that's a good idea? Do you not want to do that? Do you want to do another format? Do you want to scrap a listening session or a forum of some sort? You want to scrap that idea altogether? Does anybody have thoughts on that?
What was the participation level when you and Melissa did the tax increment section?
Yeah, it was pretty good. We took about 5 calls, I would say, on during the live event, and then numerous people emailed us before the event. So we kind of had like, we can offer that as well. We can say we're having a listening session. Email your questions or your ideas or your comments ahead of time. And then I'd say all told between emails and phone calls, it was like solid 20 plus people, which is not huge, but I think the bigger with the thing with the TIFF town hall was that we did a presentation, so it was also sort of an educational thing. So people saw, what the subject was all about, so they can make an informed decision at town meeting. In this case, our quote unquote presentation could simply be, hey, here are the results of the flash vote survey we issued last month that you responded, many in town responded to. Here are some previous input that we received when we put out a call for, community input. And we can also discuss some of the work that you guys have been doing if you want. It's really up to you. We can kind of do a 10-minute presentation and I can run it if you want. It's up to you. I just want to make sure you guys are covering all angles of public participation and community outreach the way you envision it, but I also don't want to do things that you guys don't want to do. So I just, putting it out there.
It's Jim again. Would there be any benefit to doing the listening session before the survey to again gather more interest for the actual survey, or do you think it should be a completely separate approach?
I'm good either way. I'd look to you guys to sort of answer that.
This is Jen. I mean, I just would ask a question. I sort of would rather see this get done. We've been sort of, I don't know what our overall timeline is, but I don't see any benefit to us dragging this out. I would rather see both of these things happen and happen fast. Let's get the feedback in and let's, you know, I felt like we were starting to close in on getting towards recommendations, and I'd hate to see that this process that we've been talking about for 6 months now sort of delay that. So I'm in favor of doing both, but let's move on it, I guess.
I agree.
Could we accept, this is Joe, can we accelerate it? Andrew, you said maybe the end of July. Is there any reason we couldn't start surveys now for July?
Like I said, we can start a survey tomorrow, but there's only 85 people signed up in flash vote. So I just want to make sure that if we issue a flash vote survey through that platform, you guys are going to get what you would and the public would consider to be a robust response.
So respectfully, I understand that, but if Kevin's going to go out to North Andover Moms and there's 9,000 folks out there, I mean, I suspect that's something that could be done pretty easily, and then you could follow up right behind him. I think it's, I think that we had great momentum. I think we have, I think generally this board was leaning towards one particular area. And in all honesty, given the economic climate, what's happened in the last 4 months, I think it would be a really bad decision to delay this on the town of North Andover's part, at least from my board members' perspective. I think that we have some very, interested folks, and we should move forward in this process.
Okay.
Jim again, that's fine. So, I think another question that was going to come up, items B and C on the agenda are interviews and discussions with other stakeholders and research on comparable facilities. Well, I mean, the comparable facilities questioning has been done, but we have not gone back, and we've looked pretty much in depth at the current model, and we've looked pretty extensively, or at least with the trustees, on a nonprofit leasing and managing or managing the estate. We've not gone back and looked at the private model, the Elegant Banquets or any other organization that may be out there, to see what they could bring to the town. Is that something that, and I frankly did think that was important. I think everybody knows that I'm probably one of the least in favor of that option. But again, we do have a demand for diligence by the selectmen, and possibly we should we should revisit that, whether it's inviting Elegant Banquets in or anybody else. Again, I'm not favoring anybody, but again, anybody have any comments on that as to whether we should go that route?
I do. Actually, I apologize. Perhaps I'm misremembering, but we vetted that and we decided as a board, perhaps we took a vote on it, that we weren't even going to invite Elegant Banquets back in. I could be wrong, but I think that was early, reasonably early on.
I'm sorry, the vote, what were you said that the vote was to not invite them in, Joe? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
I don't remember that, frankly, but then again, I'm old.
It's Kevin. I don't recall voting on that. I do recall taking a straw vote and then I think agreeing in general that we as a group who did not want to sell the estate from the town. But I agree with Jim in terms of just doing our due diligence to cover that base. If it's brought up, I think it's worthwhile to at least have a conversation with a private vendor that we could potentially be leasing to. I've been asked a couple different times if that's come back up in the agenda and in speaking about it. So I think that's worthwhile. And I did hear that Elegant Banquets at some point was still out there wondering. So might be worth a conversation.
Yeah.
The-
CJ, again?
Yeah, the only issue that I have with the Elegant Banquets thing is their whole plan was kind of based on a modification of the property that just isn't possible. So you know, we can go down this route, but maybe they're not the ones to ask. Maybe we need to find somebody else to ask to come in and you know, make the proposal or whatever.
Jim, can I respond to that?
Sure, go ahead, Andrew.
So I understand and respect that, and you may very well be right, CJ. But bringing them in, and again, I'm not advocating one way or the other. You guys have to make the decision for yourselves if it's worth. And I've heard Joe and Jen both say they want to be very expedient about this whole process. And believe me, nobody wants to get through this whole process more than I do. But if in deciding whether you want to bring back a model like Elegant Banquets to the table, you could ask them that question. You could ask them if their model relies on that or not. Because if it does, then you know the answer could be very, very clear, and you could just cut the conversation very short from there and say this is not going to be a model that we're even going to be remotely interested in. That said, if they're willing to do something different or modify what they brought forward to town meeting a couple of years ago or a year and a half ago, then maybe you have a broader discussion about it and you put it under consideration.
It's Kevin. I'm not, and just to be clear, I'm not advocating that we necessarily bring Elegant Banquets in specifically. I just think that we ought to be vetting that option. You know, I think we've ruled out selling the property, but I do think if there's, you know, that we still have the potential to lease to a private vendor or to lease to another organization, like the trustees. So I think, you know, we can say pretty clearly that we heard what the town voted against, which was selling the property, but there was a significant vote to lease the property to Elegant Banquets. So I think it's worth either having a conversation with them and rule them out, or have a conversation and hear what they have to say, whether that's changed.
So, Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong, but don't they still get another bite at the apple? So when technically we're going to issue as a town, we're going to issue another RFP, and it would be up to, I assume, probably Lori who will draft it, or town council. And the breadth and scope of that would be more up to the selectmen. We as an advisory board to kind of try to steer this in and say, all right, this is what we're thinking. We're not excluding Eloquent Banquet. I suspect they'll have an opportunity to put another proposal in against whomever else submits. I think, though, as a board, I thought we had, Kevin, you may be right. It may have been just a straw poll, but I do remember, I think it was me who asked the board, and I think all but one of us said, you know, we really don't have any interest in bringing them back in. I think it was vetted at the town meeting and otherwise.
So
So
Joe,
what
since
is
you
the
asked,
decision? I mean, isn't it the middle ground here that if some of us think that there needs to be more diligence on this particular option, and some of us, you know, but we also think that this is not really a viable option that we're going to be recommending. I think what Andrew suggested makes the most sense, which is somebody calls them and talks to them and gathers information, just like we were doing with the comparable facilities. And then we can come back and at our next meeting and say, here's what we learned. And then we've ticked that box, right? We've done our diligence, but it doesn't take 4 meetings to set it up and to get through that process. Because that to me is the frustration, especially with losing so much time, is that, you know, we can do some of this work offline and then come back and report back. And I think we should be taking advantage of that so that we can move this forward more expeditiously.
I'm happy to reach out to them and speak. I've got calls into Glen Magna in Danvers and Pierce Farm in Danvers. I'm happy to add Elegant Banquets if I can get contact information to talk to them about what Jen's saying. I agree. I think if we can do some of this through phone conversations pretty quickly and rule out or rule in options, that's the best way to go.
I think that's fine. I think actually we can also add there is a facility in Topsfield, or ownership in Topsfield, that owns a local facility, who had reached out to Rosemary Smedili. I can reach out to Rosemary and try to see if we can revive that. That was just before the coronavirus situation hit. So These were people who were running a facility privately, and I don't know whether they were interested in potentially running the Stevens estate, but maybe just giving us information on how they did it privately.
And it's a town-owned property, right, Jim?
I can't remember whether Rosemary actually said that. I thought it was.
Or maybe the Historic Society owns it.
Yeah, exactly. And the Historic Society, though not necessarily the Historic Commission in that town, but a private historic society. So, but I'll reach out to her. So that's fine with me. We can do the research behind the scenes, and anybody else can reach out to any other private enterprise. And then, again, we can, if we get good information, we can always put it on the agenda for the next meeting, and maybe even, reach out and ask them to join the meeting if we want information, or we can just make a decision to rule it out if we don't think there's anything feasible there.
Okay, so
But I think, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to suggest that why don't we finalize a few things that Kevin should ask you, me, and Kevin, Jim. We can finalize questions that Kevin can ask, because we don't want to bring the questions back at the next meeting just to keep this process going, and we don't want to spend too much time right here and now developing those questions. So maybe offline, Jim, you, me, and Kevin can discuss what those questions to Elegant Banquets can be, and then I can get Kevin that contact information, and he can do and then report back to the group at our next meeting.
Okay, that sounds good.
And then you guys can decide if you want to bring them in for an actual meeting for a larger interview, or if you want to just leave it at whatever Kevin finds.
Right.
Is it Gould Barn in Topsfield? Is that the wedding site?
That doesn't ring a bell, Kevin, but it could be. I'm not sure Rosemary ever gave me the name of it.
Okay, it's owned by the Historical Society, and they do rent it out for venues, for weddings and events.
Yeah, I'll touch base with Rosemary and see if we've got a viable name.
Okay.
All right, to keep things moving along here, so basically we've touched a little bit on A and C, and item B is interviews, discussions with stakeholders. Does anybody think that we should reach out and talk to any of the selectmen in our own town, or the town manager? Obviously, Andrew represents community development and community and economic development. But again, our other department heads in town, I mean, is it worthwhile to have those conversations again before we all get together next time? Comments?
I mean, I think the select board has had ample time to get in touch with us and give us their feedback. So I don't think reaching out to them is, I mean, they've had time to reach out to us. They know we're meeting, so.
Fair enough. Other comments?
I'd agree with that.
All right. All right. Why don't we move on to item number 5, unless there's further comment, which is review of Stevens Estate retained earnings as of June 15th. Again,
Jim, before we move on, do you mind if I just close the loop on the community outreach part? So we talked about wanting to get it done this expeditiously, basically move forward on the survey. Can I just get a quick reading on everybody? Do people basically want to send out the flash vote survey sign up link this week, and then pivot very quickly toward issuing the flash vote survey regardless of how many people sign up? Try to gin up as much response to the actual issuance of the survey and the links as we possibly can, and go with that, and then also pivot toward organizing some sort of whether it's broadcast through NACAM, some sort of town hall, and I can bring like a platform, like a draft program for that at the next meeting, and you guys can decide if we want to move forward with that. Does everybody agree we more or less want to move forward right away with all that?
Yeah, I was going to try to wrap it up, under 6, discussion and vote on future meetings, but we can do it now. I think that it does sound like people want to expedite the process. Everybody's here except Kathleen. Hopefully she'll feel the same way. So it sounds to me like, yeah, I think we should, give ourselves a week to get this posted on various websites for flash vote survey, and then see if we can get flash vote to release the survey and go with it. I mean, and
Okay.
then we can possibly meet then to start 2 or 3 weeks to take a look at the results, what we hear from that. By then, we'd also hopefully have touched base with Elegant Banquets and or other facilities and decided whether we want to bring those in. Yeah, we can certainly fast track it. And then if anything comes up in the meantime, that's, any comment that comes up in the survey, we can certainly pursue that after the fact.
Could we perhaps have some specificity to that? That was kind of broad between Jim and Andrew. So my takeaway is that Andrew, within the next 7 days or less, we go out with the survey.
Yes.
You want to should we someone make a motion on that, and should we vote on it, or do we even need to?
I don't think we need to. We didn't have it posted as a
Agenda
vote
item.
on the agenda. We had it as a discussion item on the agenda, and you guys have voted in the past to approve the verbiage of the survey.
Correct.
So as long as people agree that we want to move forward now with that actual issuance of it, then I think we can just go ahead and do it, as long as I'm getting a
Yeah,
general
I would
opinion.
suggest that we use the first 9 days of July to get the word out. Emails, posting on websites, ask Flash Vote if they can issue the survey on 7/10, which is also a Friday. Again, what is the survey, Andrew? 24 hours or 48?
I think it's 48.
Okay, so it's open for Saturday and Sunday. We have our results, and potentially we can hold another meeting the week of, say, the 15th or 14th, somewhere in there. And I think that's as fast track as we can get it.
I'll post the links within the next 24 hours to the different Facebook
Okay.
platforms.
Right. And I'd encourage everybody to try to drum up as much support as they can. And then Kevin, Andrew, and I will touch base behind the scenes about reaching out to private enterprises. And then again, if we at the end of this meeting, if we decide on a mid-July meeting, say 13, 14, or 15, we can discuss the results of the survey, the results of our conversation with those private enterprises, and decide on the next step to take.
Are people, it sounds like no one's objecting to any of this. It sounds like people are on board, that general scope.
All
Okay.
right. Would anybody like me to solidify that with a vote, or are we good to go?
We're good to go.
Okay. All right, so then I guess we can move on to the next agenda item 5, which is a review of the Stevens Estate retained earnings as of June 15th, 2020. This was also part of the agenda package, so hopefully people have had a chance to look at it. If not, just say so and Andrew can post it.
Did you guys, A, see it, and B, do you have it pulled up now by chance? Otherwise, I can present my screen if you want me to. But if folks are, you have not looked at it?
I have it.
You have it, Jack? Okay.
Yeah, I've got it.
Okay. So the gist of this is I just wanted to keep you guys posted on the current state of affairs with respect to the finances of the Stevens Estate as expressed through the retained earnings. I'm sorry?
Could you share? My screen just frozen, so I can't see it. If
Sure.
you don't mind.
Not a problem. Not a problem. Give me 1 second here. Okay. I should be sharing now. Do you see, does everyone see this?
Yes, Jim.
Yes, thank
Does it appear large enough? I hope it's, I'll zoom in a little bit here. So this is a retained earnings statement as of June 15th, 2020. This was compiled by the town accountant. Really briefly running through it, I'm focusing here on the FY20 actual. So as of 6/15/20, we've brought in $186,175 in user fees, i.e., deposits and revenue share from the events that we've held in FY20. we're projected to take in exactly that amount by the end of FY20, just because obviously we're not going to hold any events between now and the end of, well, today is actually the last day of the fiscal year, but when this document was produced, it was on the 15th, and we haven't had any events. We have $4,100 in interest income, which brings us to a total revenue of $190,334. Salaries, expenses, indirect costs give us a total of $301,872 in expenses. So when you subtract that from the 190,000, you get a deficit of $111,539. We started out in the retained earnings at the beginning of the fiscal year with $273,581. So when you subtract out that $111,000 deficit, you have a subtotal of $162,042. Then there is a transfer to capital that occurs. And this is a number that you'll sometimes hear some folks not be happy that this is coming out. But the reality is every enterprise fund is responsible to cover its cost of capital projects. And we did a project this fiscal year where we've been renovating the upstairs bathrooms. So we had $50,000 will be coming out. And so when you take that away from the $162,000 remaining after the little math we did above, you get a remainder of $112,000. Now that deficit or that remainder in earnings is projected by today essentially to be just under $86,000 when you figure in if the estate expends the total of all of its open purchase orders. So I doubt that the estate will do that. So it probably will be above this $85,986 number, but it will certainly be in between $86,000 and $112,000 when it's all said and done. And when you consider the fact that we ended FY19 with $273,581 in retained earnings, coming down to, somewhere around 100,000, between 85 and 100,000, is troubling to a certain extent. And the last thing I'll quickly mention about it is each year we have to go to the Department of Revenue to certify the enterprise fund. And every time we come with a lower balance in our retained earnings, it puts into question whether or not DOR will be comfortable certifying the enterprise fund and feeling as though it's sustainable for a given year. So that's why this number gets more and more precarious. And I'm not saying it to cast a pall on the Stevens estate. I'm not trying to speak negatively. These are just the numbers that the town accountant came with, and it's something that I think the long-term committee should just be aware of as it continues to move forward in its analysis.
Andrew, this is Jen. I have a question for you. I understand that the budget didn't change at all for 2021, the budget that was originally put together for the Stevens estate, and that it was sort of submitted to the town meeting as it was developed pre-COVID. But what are the current expectations around the financials for the Stevens estate going forward? I mean, I imagine that it is difficult to predict when they will be able to start hosting events again and when the revenue can start coming in again. But is there any sense of people rebooking events or there being events on the calendar for hopefully phase 4? Like how do things look going into the future?
Yeah, good question, Jen. So the only way I can answer that question would be to, if you'll bear with me here, I'd have to pull up what the current bookings are, which are the most sort of the up-to-date sense of where our bookings are. I know what happened is a bunch of events, I think maybe 2 events got canceled, and a handful of events got postponed to this fiscal year or further out. So we didn't lose all business. To your point about when events can start again, hard to say. I think the earliest they'd be able to start would be this month in phase 3 of the state's reopening plan. And then even then, it probably won't be full capacity. So you won't obviously have to be able to have full blown weddings, and you'll have to take extra precautions given everything that's going on. But you're right, we're facing some headwinds as far as drumming up more business and continuing operations. So hard to say.
Yeah, I mean,
I had a meeting with Joanna 2 weeks ago, just to ask the same question that Jen just asked, and asked Joanna directly if what her thoughts were about events coming up. She has a couple of events in the works for the end of this month, or actually for the next week or two. I don't know what it is, like a concert, or with I don't know, with restaurant activities up there to buy food and whatever. And then she told me that she had only a couple of weddings booked for the early fall. So
Yeah, and so I don't know if you guys can see what I'm sharing around. Sorry, I'm rotating this, but give me a second here to land on something. I'm sharing the booking report, and this is FY20, and I counted, I believe, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 events that are currently scheduled for FY21. And according to the booking report, we have an estimate revenue total of 87,488 based on those 11 events. Now, I'm sure the director will work hard to, book additional events for FY21. So I don't want anybody to walk away assuming that that's all said and done, that these events are all that's going to happen in FY21. But that's currently what's being forecast.
you said 11 events?
That's what I have. That's what I'm seeing on this booking report. FY21, and these are the events.
what I heard just from covering this on the finance committee perspective was that COVID hit right in the months where they have their most active booking season. So most weddings for a year out are booked in the spring. So there was a significant impact on their ability to book out into the future. So I mean, they're in an impossible situation, really, financially. Yeah. There's just no, and it's not through anything that they have done. There's no change we could make to their operating model or suggest or other format that would somehow make a banquet space profitable in 2020, the summer of 2020. So it's just tough.
But doesn't this board, doesn't this add a sense of urgency? I mean, when COVID hit, to me, this whole process, I know we haven't met, but to me, it adds a pretty significant additional sense of urgency to me personally. And when I see retained earnings at $85,000, that's scary. And then when we talk about continuing the discussions and exploring more options, I really think it's critical for us to move on this, given that this isn't just one issue. This is the Stevens estate for North Andover, but we, as a community, as a state, as a country, don't know where we're going to go. I mean, we burned off 10% of GDP in the last couple months, maybe 15 plus when the new numbers come out. I mean, this is really a significant thing. And I think it's imperative for us to move this as quickly as possible. And I understand the certain checks we have to make as we go. But to balance this, and particularly with some of the folks that have interest, who have capital to move a project along, we're talking about private vendors. I'm in the real estate business. I don't know a private vendor out there that could do a hotel deal right now. BlackRock, the biggest real estate holding company in the world, defaulted on $450 million portfolio of hotels today. So it doesn't, for me personally, make a lot of sense to continue to explore the private option. I can't imagine that could materialize. So, I personally would like to try to really focus on kind of bringing this in, making the recommendation, and hopefully the selectmen, make good decisions, and I suspect they will, and the town manager, and we make some good choices and do a great thing for the town of North Andover. I think the longer we wait, the more variables are introduced to the situation, and perhaps some of the people who would be really, in my personal opinion, a phenomenal fit for our community, for our school system. Perhaps they also have capital issues or growth issues or change their capital spending plan, and we lose that opportunity. So that's, I couldn't feel stronger about it. And I don't know if I have to restate it. I think it was pretty.
Yeah. Joe, I agree with you. And I think my perspective, I'm obviously the finance committee appointee, and I've spent the last 2 months meeting weekly or biweekly with Sasha and others. And this has definitely been on the table, but we don't know what's going to happen to the town economy going forward. Right now, the town is in great shape. The town manager and Lynn and everyone is saying if we are going to feel an impact, it is going to be in the next fiscal year. And what I'm seeing from this report is that that's exactly when the retained earnings are going to run out for the Stevens estate if things stay on the same track that they are. And so that's a really big concern to me. And I also think that there is a real sort of the curve of the risk benefit in terms of continuing to due diligence on this process. We've gathered a lot of information already, and I'm not sure that there is so much that's going to change, that's going to flip our understanding of anything. We're not going to get 2 months down the road and have some crystal ball about what the Stevens estate can do under its current model. Like we're still going to, 2, 4, 6 months down the road, it seems very likely that we're still going to have this big uncertainty that's out there. And I think the sooner we can give our information to the decision makers to move forward, the better the town will be, especially given the financial forecast related to the estate.
Extremely well said. I couldn't agree with Jennifer more.
Do we have any idea that where the trustees are in terms of their capacity to take on this project? I mean, we know that they're going to need a couple $1 million to
Yes.
take on this project. So do they have that? I mean, have they been hit by this?
So my understanding from the gentleman that I've been kind of interfacing with is they're extremely interested. They'd like to move this process forward. We're on their top 1 or 2 in the whole state of Massachusetts. They very, very much, love the building. They listen to us really closely about kind of our wants and needs and integration with our school kids and all the stuff that we've talked about a lot. And I think that they've asked for financial data. They are looking to go up there and do an assessment on the physical structures themselves. And I believe they're moving forward pretty quickly and going to ask for a meeting with Melissa soon. Big interest, and it hasn't waned that I'm aware of.
And so, just so people know, I just want to be very transparent. Jim had relayed to me that Joe had still been in contact with the trustees and that they were interested in looking at the town's finances. And so my response is basically, Joe, if you don't mind, please facilitating communication so that we can set up a meeting with Melissa, because I think the issue at hand really needs to be that, the town itself needs to gain an understanding if, what the interest level is and what they need as far as information. And then if it's this, if it's this committee's ultimate recommendation that a model that the trustees brings is the preferable one, then at least the town will have made some headway in understanding, what the trustees need or what they want and what they'll require if they move forward with that type of model.
I think it's important for the public since we're being publicized, and I think our other meetings they had to attend, and someone could probably do a better job recapping what transpired. But 2 very high level trustees, representatives of the trustees, came in to meet with us and expressed their very, very strong interest. And from memory, the CEO of trustees of reservation is particularly interested, and perhaps will be reaching, to our town manager.
Specifically, Joe, is what the trustee is looking for, is that addressed in this retained earnings report, or are they looking for more in-depth financial information?
No, I think they're looking for much broader information. I know that we had done some cost studies, and I suspect they want to take a close look at zoning and probably, I mean, I would assume, I don't recall that they specifically said this, but kind of an underlying tone is, and with any negotiation like this is, okay, town of North Andover, what would you like? Here's what perhaps we could provide. here's the programs that we could run, here's how we could help your community, here's how we could work hand in hand. And I know that we as a board, and I think Jen and I particularly had talked to some of the trustees when they were on site, and then during our site walks, that we think this is a great opportunity also to get the school system involved. And we have those structures up there. We have money in the CPA funds available. So there's definitely, for lack of a better way to say it, a deal to be had. At least I think, given the current economic environment, the deals to be had out there are very limited. And I think trustees is one of the folks out there who could make this happen. And we get rid of a potential liability to the town. We have limited resources to allocate over to this property. We only have $85,000 in retained earnings. It's speculative at best to say we're going to have weddings. Who knows? COVID comes back in more waves. I mean, no one knows.
So I just want to add, Joe, you use and I'm only doing this because we're being broadcast to the public, that you use the word negotiation. I just want to be clear for the public that there is no negotiation underway right now with the trustees. At this point, it's just like what the board, what Mr. Pellich said. It's just, we've had a conversation with them in a public setting. They've been to a previous meeting. There's been communication and trying to understand what their model could bring as a potential operating model option for the Stevens estate. And it's
Exactly.
just it's an evaluation that's underway.
I meant that absolutely in a conceptual sense, of course.
Yes. Just wanted to be
Um,
transparent.
Yeah.
This is Jim again. I think too, we have to be pretty careful about, walking that fine line. We're not the we're not the committee that's going to make that negotiation. We're not going to have that. We're going to recommend a model to the Board of Selectmen, and whether that be this model or the current model or some other model, a private model, we're going to make that. I kind of see it as a little bit of us overstepping our bounds if we, start negotiating or talking, not negotiating, talking with the trustees. Again, I think that, that's really up to the selectmen once we present them with our recommendation.
Absolutely, Jim. I think I was talking more of Jennifer and I when we were on the site visit at Stevens without trustees there. We kind of went through one of the structures and said, wow, this would be an absolutely outstanding place for the kids. And I think there was, I think Jack was also, when we were looking at the structure, we all were like very impressed at what it could potentially be for the town of North Andover.
Yeah, a little bit of facelift, it could really provide a lot of benefit, Joe. I agree.
Right.
I don't want to totally break momentum, but I also just want to bring it back to the retained earnings for one more second and make one more point, which was just, and I think you guys already know this, is just the difference between other enterprise funds and this one in terms of getting it certified and having it withstand a situation like COVID-19 is, water bills for like the water enterprise fund, for instance, and sewer bills are going to get paid. People have automatic payments, for instance, or they come right out of their debit accounts, whatever it might be. So the user fees for those enterprise funds are coming in regardless of whether or not there's a pandemic going on. When there's a pandemic going on and you shut down the economy, no one's having an event, and therefore there are no user fees coming into the Stevens estate. And of course, the Stevens estate's expenses still continue in the sense that we're paying for the heat when it was still March and a little bit cold, and you're paying for electricity, and you're paying to maintain the grounds and things like that. So the expenses are still coming out. You're paying the salary of employees that are running the place. So the expenses are still coming out of the coffers. The user fees are not coming in. And so that's why this situation obviously resembles more of a private business scenario in terms of the way it's hurting the Stevens estate than do the other aspects of the town's finances and enterprise funds. But I think you guys recognize that.
With all due respect to the COVID-19 situation, I think our view has to be a little bit more long-term, though. Just think of the situation it could put even an organization, a private organization or a nonprofit organization. They're doing the same thing. Are they going to, if the trustees are interested in running this as a venue, then they're also got to be looking at the fact that they may not be able to rent it either. So, whatever negotiation the selectmen enter into at some point in time with any organization, they're going to have to take that into account. Are the lease payments to the town or whatever management fees to the town going to be able to going to be sustainable or worth it for the town to make that type of a lease or agreement. It's, again, the trustees is not immune. That, for instance, I'm sure their revenue at Crane Beach is down tremendously. Just, people have not been able to use their facilities. So again, I think that I want to look beyond. I'm not saying that that's a bad option, but again, I think that we need to look in the long term, and maybe that's even more reason to go that route. But again, I don't think we should just look at, what fiscal year 21 or 22 is going to bring. With that said, any final comments on the retained earnings? Well, then we'll move on to the last agenda item, which is a vote on future meeting dates. So we pretty much got a framework where we're going to lobby to get people to sign up for a flash vote. We're going to send if flash vote can do it, we're going to get the survey out by July or on July 10th. It'll wrap up on July 12th. And again, is anybody interested in meeting that next week to discuss results and results of our contact with potential private enterprises?
Can I humbly request that we meet the week of the, just lost my calendar. Can we meet the week of the 20th? And I ask because I'll be on vacation the week of the 13th, if that's okay with folks.
All right, you fast trackers, is that okay?
No, I want to ruin Andrew's vacation. Of course, that's fine with me.
Appreciate it.
Jen,
Thank
I
you.
was hoping you'd step on Andrew's parade there.
Well, and I know we'll have the survey done by that time, and I know we'll have I'm confident Kevin will have the talk to Elegant Banquet. So I think we'll have a robust conversation. It'll definitely make for a robust conversation.
Right, and actually, flash vote.
And being the let's fast track this type person, if we're going to push it out till the 13th, is there a way that is there any benefit to recirculating the draft report, Andrew, that you had started working on before? I'm sure that with all of your hard work on Amazon and town meeting and all of that, that not much work has been done on it in the interim, but is it worth brushing that off? And no criticism, but and that's rightly so, but should we start focusing in on that as well? Is that a good thing for us to sort of focus on for the next meeting?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we can do a couple things. I can either just circulate it, and you guys can sort of take down notes that you want me to incorporate into the draft, and I can take care of that and incorporate your, how the different, layers of information you want to incorporate into that draft. Or I can share it as a Google document, and it can just be dynamically, edited as anyone sees fit. Sort of like Jim sent around that, he's done that a couple times, the comparable facilities spreadsheet that you guys can just edit. It can, likewise, this document can be formatted into Google Docs and you guys can edit it at will and it can be shared. Absolutely.
I think that's a good way to start. And, maybe it'll give us some direction. Yeah, you've got the framework set up. Let's get it out there in a Google Doc and people can add to it. Everybody will see the changes and then we can discuss it at the next meeting.
Okay. And we can make it a standing agenda item if you want to just talk
Agreed.
about how we're updating the document so the public is aware of how we're, developing it. So I'll go ahead and share it sometime after the meeting, after we get off this call.
So that leaves us the week of the 20th. So 20, 21, 22, that's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday are probably the more viable dates. We seem to meet on those 3 days or 3 nights.
And I want to remind everybody that we're constrained a little bit by other meetings happening. So I know that Monday evenings have been better for people in the past, but because those are typically Board of Selectmen, I don't think we're going to be able to swing that.
How about 7/21? How does that work for everybody? That's Tuesday.
You know what? I'm looking at the calendar. It doesn't look good because there's a bunch of other meetings going on. What I will do is, if you guys want to just vote on any meeting date that works that week, and then put in the caveat that we may have to change it. Because what I'll do is I need to talk to NACAM about their ability to broadcast 2 meetings at once. Because every night that week there's So like Monday, there'll be a Board of Selectmen, Tuesday it's Planning Board, Wednesday it's Conservation Commission, Thursday it's Board of Health. So I'm gonna have to work with them to see if we can squeeze our meeting in. So if someone wants, if you guys want to take a vote and then just give me give a caveat for an ability to revise the date to one that works best based on the broadcast schedule, I can work with you guys on that.
So basically, we're looking for a motion to, or I'm looking for a motion to vote on having our next meeting of the Stevens Estate Long-Term Advisory Committee on 7/21/2020, subject to availability of North Andover CAM and possibly other factors.
Yes.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is that you, CJ?
It's Jack.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jack. I couldn't see lips moving. So, all right, the motion has been moved by Jack. Is there a second?
Second,
No,
Kevin.
okay, yeah.
Second by Kevin. Discussion. So basically, we're voting on a meeting for the 21st, 7 o'clock. But Andrew will get back to us, and we may have to send out another survey as to what the best available nights are if we can't do it that night.
Not a flash vote survey though.
Yeah, not a flash vote.
Okay, bad joke.
All right, any
We
further
need voice
discussion?
votes.
All right, so these are voice votes. And again, I'll go down through the roll call if I can find it. All right, so Jack,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
CJ,
Yes.
and Jim votes yes as well. So the vote is unanimous. All right, that's it for agenda items except to adjourn. So if there is a motion to adjourn, I will accept
Move to
that.
adjourn.
Second,
Second, Kevin.
thank you. All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
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 Motion to adjourn is approved unanimously, and we are adjourned at 8:15 p.m. on June 30th. Thank you very
Nice.
much for attending.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night,
Good
everybody.
night.